Hello, everyone. Today we are jumping into the second part of our past tense discussion. Last week we talked about the deshta form, as well as the ways that we can take adjectives, and say something was not delicious or something was delicious. Today we're switching to a slightly easier topic. It's going to be a shorter lesson, so we'll have more time for practicing. We're going to talk about how to take the verbs that we have and work with those and change those into past tense. And yes, although this is a lesson, so to speak, we don't have, an official Q&A time. And so if you have any questions, feel free to ask, type them into the channel whenever you want, even if I'm talking. And whenever we have chances to participate, you're free to participate, practice answering or practice writing sentences, but you don't have to. It's completely up to you and whether or not you want to do it. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and get started. We have talked before about the mas form, the present tense, tabemasu, ikimasu, yarimasu, all those good things. And the good thing with the past tense is it's not much of a change from those. And so if you have the mas form, when we were talking about the mas form, we talked about if something is ichidan or if it's godan or if it's irregular. And real fast, just as a quick review, let's practice forming the mas forms just for a minute. I'm going to give you a verb in the chat. I'll say it and I'll also type it out. And if you can, please type out the mas version of it. Okay, just a few to get that back into our heads. And it's as many people as want to answer, you can just type it out. If someone else types the answer out first, you still want to type it, go for it. So taberu is an ichidan verb. It becomes tabemasu. How about I'm going to jump straight into the special ones, the irregular ones. What about suru? Right. That's shimasu. There's one more irregular. I'm going to jump out and do that one right now. Kuru. Or to come. Kimasu. Let's jump into our godan group. How about, I don't know why this one pops into my head all the time, but osu. Maybe it's because I see my kids pushing each other every day when they play. Kids playing, it's always one step before fighting. It's loving fighting. Oshimasu. Okay. What about if you are waiting? You will wait on someone. Matsu. Just a couple more. How about if, now don't answer until I say the meaning. How about kiru, as in to cut? If you cut something. That's right, kirimasu. I had to give you the definition because there is, as some of you probably know, there's one more kiru, which is, say, to put on clothes, to wear something. What's the mas version of that one? So we've got kimasu, correct. Okay, so I think you all more or less have the mas versions down. And here's the cool thing. If you have those, you no longer have to think about what type of verb it is. Switching it to mashita is so easy. If mas is what ends our present tense verbs, mashita ends the past tense ones. And that's it. That is really all there is to it. So instead of mas, we have mashita. Instead of mas, we have mashita. And so if you look at the screen, we just have a few examples. We've got miru, would be to look. That's mimasu or mimashita. Miru, mimasu, mimashita. If we have go, to go somewhere. We have iku. Present tense will be ikimasu. Past tense is ikimashita. Suru, a special one. You all gave me the shimasu just a few minutes ago. Suru, shimasu, shimashita. And that's it. There's no special changes. And so you see, you're no longer saying, oh, I've got the mas form of an ichidan verb, therefore I need to do this. You don't have to worry about that. You've already made that calculation in your head. You're just dropping the mas and you're swapping out or swapping in mashita instead. So with that in mind, let's try, again, let's do a really quick practice before we look at some sentences. And I'm going to make it a bit harder. I'm not going to give you the Japanese. I'm going to give you just the English and give me the past tense form of it. So, for example, if I tell you, you don't have to answer this, I will answer. If I say eat, then you would type out tabemashita. Instead of tabemasu, tabemashita. So, let's give that a try. Again, if you make a mistake, who cares? No one here does. But it's worth giving it a try. Trying to get that out, even making mistakes, is going to help you remember better. Actually, the mistakes help you remember better than getting it correct. So it's definitely worth giving it a try. Okay, let's get started. How about make? So I make something. Make. And again, if other people are typing and they've typed it out and you say, oh, that was my answer, I'm embarrassed if I type it out after them. No, don't feel that way. Go ahead and type it out. Okay, tsukurimashita. Thank you. How about, I'm going to say some kind of strange words, just so maybe we can get some new vocabulary in here. So some of these words you might not know, but you'll know at the end. How about to yell? If you need a hint, it starts with sa. To yell or kind of to scream. The translation changes slightly depending on, how the person prefers to do it. And although I know with your I am me on your keyboard wanting to change it over to kanji, let's stick to the hiragana. Since this is a beginner lesson, the temptation to push spacebar and switch it over is very high. So hopefully this is new to some of you, so you learn this. Sakebu is the screaming out, the yelling. So sakebimashita. Okay, let's switch to an easier one. How about to drink? How about to drink? Good. Okay, I'm going to keep going. Let's do, this one's an easier verb, but still not one you use as often. To arrive. You arrive somewhere. Oh, I see two versions. So this is a good point. I see two. The last two, I didn't look at the spoilered one, but the last two that came out, they're both right. One, the more common one, you'd say the more standard, I guess, is tsuku, which means the past tense would be tsukimashita. However, there's a more formal one that you hear more in writing or announcements, especially with regards to, say, a train. The train will arrive shortly. And that one it's a bit longer. It's tochaku suru. And in that case, you have the suru on the end, so it would be shimashita. Okay, let's switch back to an easier one. How about to listen? Listen. kikimashita. Right, right. And let's do one more. Let's do one more. Let's do one that, there we go. Study. Wow, I see a bunch of different answers coming up. Only one of them is correct. But I like, and this is a good chance to kind of talk about it a little bit. So the answer is benkyo. Well, the base form is benkyo suru. So the past tense form would be the one that appeared just above mine that says benkyo shimashita. Now, I see two other ones, and let me type out the base forms of them. Narao and manabu. These two are slightly different. Narao is closer to learn, as in you're learning something. That one's closer to learn. Same with manabu. Narao is definitely much more common than manabu. And there's a bit of a nuance between the two of them that I can't quite enunciate just at the moment. I'll come back to that at the end of the lesson. But the actual studying, as in, I see it more in the sense of narao is what happens at the beginning, where you get something in for the first time. For example, for some of you, learning past tense right now, someone says, what did you do today? And I'm not going to bore you with the Japanese for past tense, but you might say this. Past tense is actually kakoke. It's a fun word to say, kakoke. So you might say kakoke o naraimashita. I learned past tense. It's where you get that information in for the first time. However, benkyo is more of you're in the middle of it. It's after you've learned it, kind of, but you're studying it. So you're sitting down at the desk, and benkyo feels more like the actual physical activity of you sitting down, studying, either using renshu or writing down your notebook or whatever. That's closer to benkyo. But thank you for all the answers. I like seeing these because it gives us a chance to help clarify the difference between them. Excuse me. Now, let's get back to the past tense. The good thing about past tense stuff is that nothing else changes in the sentence. Your sentence structure, sentence format is exactly the same. And so all the particles that we've picked up so far, we can use them in exactly the same way. So if you saw a movie yesterday, or any time in the past, really, you can say something like eiga o mimashita. Eiga o mimashita, which is I saw a movie. Now, do you need to put a time at the front of it? Not necessarily. It depends on the context. If someone asked you before, for example, and this is the word or the question we're going to use in just a minute for our practice. Let's say this is the question. Oh, I left out. It's not wrong, but let me make it a bit more polite. There we go. Kino wa nani o shimashita ka? Yesterday, what did you do? Oh, I left the O out as well. I'm sorry about that. Let's slip that in there. There we go. Kino wa nani o shimashita ka? So if it's already been defined that we're talking about yesterday, there's no need to say, yesterday in your answer. So you might see things like this, eiga o mimashita. You might say, I went to Sendai. If you don't know where Sendai is, it's in Miyagi Prefecture. I used to live very close to there for several years. And it is famous for cow tongue. So if you're a meat eater and you want to try something a bit different, their cow tongue or gyutan is very famous. That's what Sendai is known for. And you can even do things a bit further in the past. you can refer to something that happened years ago. And you can say something like, Nihon de karate o shimashita. One more time. Nihon de karate o shimashita. Remember, the de is used for marking the location of those actions. And this one's actually, it sounds like it's referring to, an extended series of actions. You probably didn't do karate once. You did several times for weeks, months, maybe even years. But the place in which you did that was Japan, was Nihon. So let's keep that in mind and let's practice a little bit. There's not a lot of us in the lesson today, so I hope to hear a lot of sentences. And again, don't worry about the mistakes. Also, don't worry about making it particularly long. If your sentence is one word, if I say, hey, what did you do yesterday? And you say this, and I'm not typing this to steal this from anyone, you can use this sentence exactly as is, and that's great. You can say, nemashita, I slept. And that's probably true for most of you. I hope it is. You can string a bunch of other things in front of it, but let's keep the sentences generally simple. Let's focus on the beginner particles that we've learned, time, location, who something is done with, adjectives. Let's also stay away from the kanji as well, unless you write it in kanji and then put the hiragana under the line below. Now, if you don't want to share what you did yesterday, just lie to us. That's fine. This isn't a personal interview. We're just practicing Japanese. In fact, this might sound strange coming from a teacher, I prefer the students lie because that gives them a chance to say things that are kind of crazy. Because you get bored like I did when I was in university. Every day, the teacher would say, what did you do yesterday? I played video games. I studied Japanese. And then the next day, I said the same thing because I was a university student and life didn't change that much. But if yesterday you decide that you met Godzilla, then you should tell us that. And that'll actually help you learn better than sticking to what you did in your daily life. Because for most of us, daily life is not bad, but not super exciting either. So, with that in mind, 昨日は何をしましたか? Take your time. You don't have to get that answer out in a few seconds, but give it a try. What did you do yesterday? It can be a single word, like the person that just put one in, or it can be anything more than that. If you type out one answer and then you want to try doing another one, say, I got a simple one out, let me get it a bit longer. Do two. It's all good. In the meantime, I'm going to talk about what the other people have put up. So one person said, I went swimming. Although a very small change with that one. Oyogimashita. There's an extra sa in there. The next person went shopping. Kaimono o shimashita. The next person had an interesting battle with an ant. A big ant. I'd watch out for those. The person after that, they used two verbs, which we haven't covered yet. But they actually said, I went to the moon and came back. Tsuki ni itte kimashita. We'll learn that in the future, but it's a way of taking two verbs and saying, I did this and then I did this. One person talked about, I believe, university, although university is written with daigaku. Another person had a meal at a restaurant with some friends. And I like that the person just above my message let us know that they ate food, clarifying that they didn't eat something else, like a giant ant that someone else fought with, but they ate food. But these are great sentences. Some people are keeping it simple. Some people are making it longer. I love it. But do keep in mind, I 100% understand the desire to use as much Japanese as you know, but let's keep it to the simple sentences. That way it's not just practice for you, but it's reading practice and, consumption of Japanese for other people. I bet there's at least one person in this lesson that sees the sentence, it's 2 sentences up, that says cafe, and they said, oh, that's how you say cafe. And they've probably been wondering up until now. So thank you for writing that one. It's probably helping someone out. Okay. Again, if you have questions, just drop them out whenever you want. Now, let's switch over to the negative form. And hey, negative form is just as easy as the positive form. We had the masen, tabemasen, nomimasen prior to that. And to use the past tense form, past tense negative, we just add deshita. As in, yes, that's the same deshita we learned last week when we were talking about nouns. So instead of tabemasen, it would be tabemasen deshita. And I believe Renshu is going to tell us that, yes. So it gets a bit longer, but we got tabemasen deshita. If I didn't speak, hanashimasen deshita. And if you didn't go somewhere or didn't come somewhere, kimasen deshita. Again, there's no really special rules in the sense that you have to think of something else because you already have the masen. You just need to add deshita onto the end of that. It's pretty nice. Now, let's practice just a little bit. I'm going to try and do some other verbs we didn't have before. So, again, I'm going to give you the English, just the English. And please give me the I didn't do that. I didn't do that. Okay? So, let's try. How about to say? As in, you said so-and-so. No, I didn't say that. So, right. And I'll go ahead and put the main verb there. It's you. Iimasen deshita. Okay, how about this? How about to wash? I hope this isn't something that you ever need to use the negative form of. As in, no, I didn't wash yesterday. But if maybe you forgot to wash the dishes, you say, oh yeah, sorry, I didn't wash them. Thank you. Araimasen deshita. Now, what if there was some cool show on yesterday, you saw it, and you asked your friend, hey, did you see that? No, I didn't. I didn't see it. Looking good? Yes, mimasen deshita. Now, I'm going to ask you one more. It's kind of a strange one. I'll explain why I'm asking it as soon as people give their answers. How about to die? As in, yeah, I saw that giant meteor fall on you yesterday. You died, right? No, I didn't die. Of course not. Now, I see someone put a question mark next to theirs, and they are right in a way. They're right in a way. And I'm going to come back to and talk about the difference between those two verbs. But first, why did I mention die? In fact, if you ever use Renshu, which most of you probably are, and you use the verb conjugation lessons, or in the new server that's going to become the main server next week, you use our verb conjugation schedule, you're going to see the die pops up a lot. Quite a lot. So much that you think, is Renshu trying to tell me something? I thought Renshu was this relaxing place, and all of a sudden it's talking about die, 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 die. Why do we say die so often? So the reason behind that is that although this was probably different in much older Japanese, die verb is the only verb in Japanese, modern Japanese, that ends in nu. The only one. And it's a Godan verb. And so, just like things that end in u, or things that end in bu, or su, or tsu, they all have their different spellings. Nu is just like that. And so if we don't mention die, we can't practice that verb ending. And although I hope this verb is not something that you come upon a lot, it's part of life. And so you should know, hey, this is, if you see shinimasen deshita, oh, it's referring to someone didn't die. Or if it could be good news. There was an earthquake yesterday. Did anyone die? No. No one died. And so you'd see it come up that way. So again, there's no secret message that Renshu is trying to tell you. In fact, the new version of Renshu will tell you, hey, this is why we're doing this, just to let you know. But since we have time today, let me jump over and talk about these two verbs. Shinu, and you'll see the difference when you see the English. Shinu is most commonly translated as to die. Nakunaru is often translated as to pass away. It's used, nakunaru is used in more polite situations, and especially in reference to other people. It's a euphemism. It's not they died, it's in, they're no longer with us kind of sense. And so you hear naku narimashita used when talking about other people who have passed away. Because die tends to focus on that moment, of death. And nakunaru is just, oh yeah, they passed away. So you'll hear shinu in more dramatic things, in games, in manga, in anime, in movies. You'll hear nakunaru more often in real life, because people usually don't speak about death that directly. So you'll see nakunaru. But whoever that was, thank you for putting that out there, because that gave me a chance to talk about it. Now, just like our positive past tense stuff, there again is no change whatsoever with the rest of the sentence. So if you're talking about particles, you say, no, I didn't have sushi yesterday. Sushi o tabemasen deshita. And for those of you that are familiar with kanji, I'm sorry to say that most of this does not hide behind the kanji. So if I was to write this in kanji here, you have a whole big chunk of hiragana following. There's no way to get around that. So it's long to say and it's long to type. That's just the way it is. So if you didn't talk at the library, you might say, 図書館で話しませんでした. And if you didn't come to school, 学校に来ませんでした. And that's really it. Because we're so good on our mas form verbs, we don't need to worry about, thinking of it differently when it comes to ませんでした. So let's practice just a little bit more with this. And first, we're gonna start easy. I'm going to ask you some yes/no questions. Did you do this? Did you do that? And although I know it would be completely natural and completely normal to answer with just a hi or ie, yes I did, no I didn't, give me the full version. So if you did something, say hi, something mashita. If you didn't do it, say ie, nani nani masen deshita. By the way, are you familiar with nani nani? Have you heard this before? Nani nani is often what people use when they refer to a spot in a sentence. Whoops, except that's not 90-90, that's 90-90. It's the blank. It's the blank part of it. You also hear or see this. And this one, any guesses as to how you say that? Those two little characters? How would you read this in Japanese? Yes, it's exactly what it looks like. It's maru maru. So maru maru o tabemashita. And that means there's a blank here. There's a blank space, and that's where you put in, the word. So give me your mashita or your masen deshita. And there's a bunch of us. The group has been getting bigger, and these are pretty easy. So I hope we get a lot of people to practice. And the topic is yesterday. Okay? The topic is yesterday, so I'm not going to put kino wa on the end of all of them, but just keep in mind that that's there. So I'm asking you about yesterday. Kino wa pan o tabemashita ka? Now, I've got a couple of comments to make those sentences even more natural, but I'm going to let the other two people that are typing finish it up. Okay, so excellent answers. I hope to see more with the next question, but one small thing, there's nothing wrong with what anyone put. However, when you are answering a question, the verb you always have to leave. The verb needs to stick around. But any of that extra information, for example, the what you ate or didn't eat, if it's mentioned in the first sentence, there's usually no need to mention it in the answer. So you could say this. You could say hai tabemashita or ie tabemasen deshita. And that is not only shorter, which makes it easier to type, but it's probably the most natural and the most common way of saying it. You might put the full thing out if you are very strongly refuting what someone else said. And you really, I did not eat the bread, and you really want to mention that bread part of it, then you can put it in. But otherwise, you can keep it really simple. So if I say, let me ask you the next question. And think about your answers. Think about what do I need to leave and what do I need to keep? A bit longer, but it's not a difficult sentence. 家で日本語を勉強しましたか? 家で日本語を勉強しましたか? So take your time with your typing. It's not a race. So as a few more people are typing, please keep typing. Don't stop. But for the ones that have already come up, someone said, yes, I studied a little. I really like the second answer because it shows an interesting usage. They said no. They said ie, and that's refuting the question. No, I didn't. But then they said where they did study. They said ofisu de benkyou shimashita. So as in no, I didn't study at home. I studied at work, at my office. And so typically you wouldn't need the ie de or the nihongo o in your answer since it's coming right after the question. And the last person, very good question. So if you are adding that ie de in there, you are emphasizing that you didn't study there. And so what might follow up that sentence is you might say, 学校で勉強しました. So no, I didn't study at home. I studied at school. So yes, even by itself, that sentence, it has that nuance of, no, I didn't study at home because, and then in parentheses, I studied somewhere else. And by itself, that would work, but it would leave the other person with a, huh? Well, where did you study? So that might be their next question. Oh, so you studied, right? Well, then where did you study? So you probably in a conversation, the next sentence would say, yes, but I studied so-and-so, somewhere else. But very good question. Thank you. Okay, let's switch it up. Let's make it a bit harder. Instead of yes, no questions, let's go back to the question we had before. And instead of kino, let's make it a bit bigger. Let's make it a bit of a bigger range to give you more things to talk about. Now, I realize that this isn't a question that you would usually ask. Hey, how's it going? What did you do last year? But for the sake of practice, let's try. Let's say that the person, I was asleep for a year and I just woke up. I'm like, so last year, what did you do? I was asleep. 去年は何をしましたか? Now, feel free to answer in the positive or the negative. So say, well, last year I didn't do this. We just practiced the negative a little bit, so feel free to be a weirdo and answer in the negative. What did you do? Well, I didn't read this manga. Again, like I said before, there is absolutely no need to be honest and truthful. The best thing you can do is use whatever sentence you want to use to practice with. Because I have seen, as people are typing, when I was in classroom teacher, I've seen so many times where I'd ask a student, we were practicing, for example, I ate so-and-so, simple past tense. So I'd say, what did you eat yesterday? And they ate something that they didn't know the English for. They had, I'm going to say spaghetti. And maybe they didn't know spaghetti. And instead of saying something else, they would just give up. And they not only give up, but they feel like they failed. They're like, oh, I suck at English. I can't do this. But I feel what a better answer would be is to say, okay, I don't know how to say that, but I'm here. It's English class. I should study. I'm going to say I ate pizza. And is Michael Sensei going to dock me points because he's going to go to my house and check and find out that I did not eat pizza and I'm a liar? No, of course not. So someone didn't go to Japan last year. I hope you can go this year if it works out. Someone watched anime last year. Someone planted tomatoes. Someone did something to homework. Usually with homework, the verb that comes with it is to do. So, 宿題をしました。There are ways to say like homework was given out, but typically with that, we switch over to the passive tense, which is terrifying. It's not something that beginners want to deal with. You get to it eventually, but and since we have time today, I'm having fun jumping off on these little tangents. Just above me, someone put this. They put this sentence, and I'm going to a slip a particle in there. 犬を飼いました. Now, interestingly, I'm not going to say what it means, but you can say this sentence. And for those of you that haven't done the present progressive, which we're going to get to in a few weeks, real fast. This is slightly higher level, but still beginner, still very much beginner. Say you have these two sentences. What do each of these sentences mean? Now, for some of you, you're going to say, I have no idea what this is. Don't worry. It's just, I saw it. I wanted to ask. Slightly more difficult. If you see these two sentences and someone says one and then they say the next one right after it, what's going on here? It kind of looks like the same verb, but hint, it's not. And I see one answer already, but without saying whether it's right or not, I see other people typing, so I'm going to let them type and then give you the answer. So everyone gave slightly different translations, which I like because it helps reinforce the point that you shouldn't focus on this word means this word definitely in English or whatever. But there's actually two verbs that are spelled this way, kao. One of them is this one, which is to buy. And one of them is this one, which means to own or to have a pet. But they sound exactly the same. And so the first sentence would have been, I bought a dog. You went to the store, you paid money, you received the dog. And here's one dog. Thank you. The second one is in the present progressive, like the ing, to show a state, a current state, which means like I have a dog. You probably wouldn't literally say I'm raising a dog or taking care of a dog. When people say this, they usually just mean I have a dog. And it's more common to use this verb than to use just the possessive, not possessive, the existence verb, iru, as in I have a dog. Sometimes they'll say that if they're describing their family. They say I have 2 brothers, 2 sisters, and a dog. But outside of that, if they're just saying, oh yeah, I have a dog, they'll often use this one, which could mean I'm keeping a dog, I am raising a dog, but more commonly it's just used and understood as I have a dog. So, just something on the side. Anyway, today's lesson is a bit short because really there's nothing too difficult about this. Now, because of that, before we end things, now, if you have questions, ask them before we end the event. But with Renshu, I wanted to show you something. If you don't have this already, then this is coming next week. There's a big server merge taking place with Renshu, and a whole bunch of new features are jumping in. And so if you can't access this now, in just a few days, you'll be able to do so. But let me go ahead and show you because it's awesome. If you still need practice on, say, the mas forms or these mashita or masendeshita that we learned today, and you think, I know them, but it takes me too much time to get them out. And I want to speed it up. Up until now, we've had verb conjugation practice in Renshu, but it was kind of hidden. It was in a terrible spot, and so many people rightfully said, you should fix that. So in the new Renshu, if you're looking at my screen share, if you are here on your dashboard, in fact, I already have them on here, but let me jump back. At the bottom of your list of schedules, you probably don't have as many as I do. Down here, there's a manage your schedules button. This has always been here, but what's inside of here is changing. So if you go here in the future, next week, and you have all the schedules you have now here, if you go to all schedules, right down here under Renshu recommended, we have verb and adjective conjugation schedules. And you can add, the verb one or the adjective one, and it will be a schedule focused just around those spellings. So it says, hey, spell it this way, spell it that way, or what is this, what is that? And so this has been requested for years, and hopefully it'll help you out. On top of that, when you're using it, you can literally choose exactly the conjugations you want to focus on. So if those polite forms are easy for you, you can say, no, I don't need those, take them out. Focus just on the casual ones. There's even down below, there's passive, causative, all that good stuff. So definitely check this out now if you have access to it. If you don't have access to it, it's coming up in next week. And I see some questions about yaru and suru. The answers that were given there are not wrong, but there's another really big difference. And there's probably other ones that I cannot think of at the moment. But there are a ton of what are usually called suru verbs in Japanese. And for example, here's one. Kaimono suru, to go shopping. Benkyou suru, to study. Undo suru, to exercise. It's all those ones that kind of take a noun and then you add suru on the end of it. You cannot replace that with yaru. You cannot. So you don't really say undo yarimashita. That sounds off. However, in a casual context, you can replace the whole thing with yaru. So if someone said, for example, if someone asked you, did you exercise? Undo shimashita ka? Most people would say, if they were staying polite, they'd say shimashita or shimasen deshita. But they might answer and say yarimashita. I did it. However, the strange thing is because it's more casual, you probably wouldn't answer with the yarimashita. You'd probably use the casual form yatta, which we haven't learned yet. However, suru, it covers so much more, and you're never wrong with suru. In the sense that you're never going to say suru, and they're going to say, oh, you should have used yaru in that situation. It sounds strange. So suru is the safe one until you hear yaru enough to say, okay, I get a good feel for when this should be used. Yeah, you could say shita. But we're jumping into casual forms. So for some of you, if you're saying, what's this yatta, what's this shita, these are casual forms that we have not gotten to yet. The only time that you have to use yaru is when you are not talking about doing something, but you're talking about giving something to someone below you. So if you are, say, giving water to a plant, then you'd say this. And in that sense, the yaru, this is a different version of yaru. This is the to do or to give someone. And it's the same version as ageru, but it's a much more, not just casual version, but it's a rougher version in the sense that you're using it for someone below you, and you usually use it for pets and for inanimate objects, like a plant. If you use it for a person, you're giving them something, but you're also making it clear as in you want everyone else to know that they're below you. So you're taking the time to change your language to clarify that their social position is below you. Which, to be honest, how often do you really want to do that? How necessary is that? So you don't hear it that often with regards to other people unless you are really wanting to lower them. So typically it's closer to pets. And again, with pets, many of us treat pets at the same level as people, and you would say ageru. And that'd be fine. But with plants, you often hear say yaru, for example. But this is jumping slightly off topic. So anyway, thank you so much for coming to today's event. And definitely check out the verb conjugation schedule if you'd like. It's awesome. And if you don't have access to it, it will be available in the app and the website. Just if you don't have access to it now, when the server merge takes place next week, everyone will have access to it then. And yeah, it's not only nice if you've used the verb conjugation stuff in the past, it's even better than it used to be because all of the mastery levels are separated by the verb type. So for example, if for whatever reason you just can't get the ku, the verbs end in ku, if you just can't get them right, they'll come up more often. Whereas if the u versions, you're really good at those will come up less. So it's not a mastery level for the entire conjugation, the tense. It's for each different type of verb. So you might say, I know this one fine, but I have trouble with the suru and the kuru ones. Well, they'll come up more often. So I hope it helps. Anyway, this video will be available in the Discord inside of Renshu and on our YouTube channel. So if you need to go back, kind of take a look at it again, feel free to do so. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you are with us next time.